Good morning and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. There's a simple technique that playwrights, novelists, and movie and TV show directors use all the time. When trouble starts to brew, it's usually raining outside. For musicians, things shift into a minor key. Well, I don't know if Tuesday in the week before Jesus was killed was a rainy day or not, but it was certainly worthy of thunder echoing at least. This week we are walking through Holy Week with Jesus and looking at what happened each day as Jesus made his way through that final week to his crucifixion. On Tuesday, Jesus and his disciples headed toward Jerusalem again. Along the way, they saw that barren fig tree that Jesus had cursed and how it had withered away. We talked about that symbolic action a little yesterday. And once more, they go to the temple, but the scene there is anything but worshipful. There in the temple, Jesus engages in some difficult conversations with the priests and religious leaders, often exposing their hypocrisy or faithlessness. There are discussions about Jesus' authority to say and do what he's doing, and Jesus tells a parable about the wicked tenants of a vineyard who end up being driven out and killed, and those religious leaders couldn't miss the point that as Jesus was talking about those wicked tenants, he was talking about them. Then they ask him about whether it was right to pay taxes in order to trap him in his words and drive the crowds away. And Jesus answered, "Give to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, that is, your money, and give to God the things that belong to God." In other words, you. Then they asked about a big controversy raging in that day about whether or not there was life after death. And Jesus firmly comes down on the side that there is and directly tells those who don't believe in life after death that they are wrong. There are more questions about his authority, and Jesus warns about how the religious leaders are all about power and honors and not about faith in God. Then he sees a poor widow put in 2 small copper coins in the temple treasury and comments on her absolute faith and trust in God. None of this made Jesus very popular with those religious leaders, and all of it fomented their desire to do away with him. Then Jesus and his disciples went out to the Mount of Olives, just across the valley from Jerusalem. They asked Jesus about the signs of his coming, and Jesus answers by telling 3 parables. The parable about the 10 virgins, 5 of whom were ready when the bridegroom came, and 5 who were not. The parable about the talents, indicating praise for those who have been fruitful for God's kingdom and criticizing the one who isn't. And the parable about the sheep and the goats, where Jesus says, "When you cared for the least of those around you, you have cared for him." Then Jesus looks at his disciples and tells them once again that he will be handed over to the chief priests and be crucified, and indicates it will happen in just a few days. And if the thunder didn't echo then, it should have. In Matthew at this point it says, "Then the chief priests and the elders of the people assembled in the palace of Caiaphas, who was the high priest, and they plotted to arrest Jesus in some sly way and kill him. But not during the feast," they said, "or else there may be a riot among the people." And it is on this day that Judas conspires with them to find a way to capture Jesus. Jesus was still popular with the crowds, but the leaders, and even one of his own, had turned against him. In the evening, Jesus was back in Bethany, eating in the home of a man called Simon the leper. Simon must have been cured from his leprosy, or else he couldn't have lived in town around other people. While Jesus was there, a woman came with costly perfume and anointed Jesus' feet. When some objected that they could have sold the perfume and given the money to the poor, Jesus responded that she had anointed him for burial. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.